Hi everyone, it's Rudy at Claude Painting Studio. Recently I painted up some of Wargames Atlantic's citizens of Rome as slaves, as might have fought alongside Spartacus during his rebellion in the Third Servile War. Behind this model here are a bunch of plastic sprues of various ancient and also some unusual figures who I think might bash together to expand the number of slaves I've got for my burgeoning force. So last month's Wargames Illustrated came with a sprue of Romans in chainmail, and as Spartacus's army grew and they defeated various Roman forces, they stole bits of armour and shields, helmets to put them to use in their forces, so these guys can fit right in. I'll also try putting some of the Wargames Atlantic weapons perhaps on these bodies, get some more variety. This of course is the Citizens of Rome sprue, with lots of options for hand-to-hand weapons there. And I think with the way the bodies are designed, with the arms cut flat, weapons from different kits should go on there just fine. Here's some Victrix ancient slingers. I think some of the heads from the Wargames Atlantic sprue should fit on there nicely, give things a bit of a more Roman look than the ancient Greek look. Likewise, there's some bodies from the Greek Peltasts sprue from Victrix. Guys in toga-like robes, they'll fit just about any ancient period. The helmets are very Hellenistic, very Greek, so I'll need to do something to swap them out. Some of the weapons as well probably won't fit in with the period I'm working in, but there's plenty on the Wargames Atlantic sprue. Now, this may not work at all, but this is the North Star Oathmark Goblin Slaves sprue. There's some very ratty robes, which might work for slaves, but they are a bit hunched over. So that's maybe not quite appropriate for sort of a human shape, but you know, slaves could have been injured, I suppose. But what is interesting on this sprue is a lot of the hands have manacles, so it potentially could be representing some slaves that have just been busted out by Spartacus and his mates, are now fighting back. I will say that these iron manacles are probably not historical representations of Roman slave manacles of this period, but then again, we're perhaps living in a more Kirk Douglas inspired Spartacus revolt than anything from history. So here's a little look at the tools that I'll be using. I've got some clippers for taking the models off the sprue. I've got a scalpel blade here for tidying up mold lines or cutting any fine pieces on my cutting mat. I've got some plastic glue for sticking things together. Sometimes there might be some gaps to fill. I've got a modelling putty. This is the hilariously named Pro Create. Green stuff is Neededite, a more common one. And I've got a dentist modelling tool, wax modelling tool to sculpt and smooth if necessary. So to remove models from sprue, with the clippers flat side down against the model. As far as mold line removal goes, or where I've cut it, take the sharp edge of the scalpel blade. Keep your fingers well clear and don't force this because it will slip and it will cut you more than it cuts the plastic. And target the mold lines. There's not many on these figures, so we can scrape. If you want to be extra careful, you can always use the back of the blade. It might take a bit longer. I want this model to look a bit more like a slave that's stolen some armour than a Roman soldier. So I think I'm going to give him this axe here. Looking at the thrusting arm with the gladius that comes, it's kind of cut halfway down through the bicep tricep area, so it fits onto this sculpted upper arm. So I will chop this at the same point, just at the bottom of the sleeve there. And then maybe need to do some shaping to get it to fit onto the body. Yeah, with a bit of cutting, I can change the angle on this so it's a bit more upright. That's a bit more like it. So I'll use some plastic glue to stick that in, and then I'll get some putty to fill that space that's left at the top of the, well, the missing part of bicep. We'll sort that out with some modelling putty. So I've got a little bit of putty to go in to the gap there. And well, from the front, I think that looks just fine. Head comes from the Citizens of Rome sprue as well. And I think once he's got his shield glued on, I'll probably do that after painting because it's quite a big one. He'll look just the part. So here's one of the Goblin Slave bodies. I think actually it's a bit smaller than the Warlord Roman. Here's with the Wargames Atlantic Citizen of Rome. About the same size, the Goblin body's a bit more crouched. So I think the Roman Citizen arms work on it just fine. That's alright. Head's going to be a bit interesting because of the crouch here. Make his neck look super long if I stuck it on like that. So options are either hollow out the base of the head or chop the neck. I'll do that off camera, it might take a bit of working out. Okay, let's talk through some of the bashes that I've done today. So here's the model just straight from the Wargames Atlantic Citizens of Rome kit that I painted previously, and that's how it scales with the other ones. At the end here is another model just straight out of pieces in the Roman Citizen kit, throwing his pila. Here we've got Roman body, Roman head. And these are the arms from the Goblin Slave sprue with the manacles. You know, I think they work okay. The scale's pretty good. As I was saying earlier, I don't know if Roman manacles look like that, but what's a more Hollywood adaptation of Spartacus' slave revolt I'm going for. This is a Victrix Peltast, but I've used a head from the Roman Citizen sprue, and where normally this model would get a Greek javelin, I've used one of the extra hands that comes in the Roman Citizens with a dagger, so he looks like he's stabbing over his little buckler there. This is one of the shields from the Victrix kit. This is a Victrix Slinger, simply with a Roman head on it. I think the heads are maybe slightly smaller than the Victrix ones. It's not a massive amount. I think 3 foot distance they work just fine. You can make slingers out of bits in the Roman Citizen kit. You have to cut off a wrist, cut off a hand at the wrist and glue on this extra hand here. I've used a little pouch from the Caesar's Legions models for his little slingshot to go in. So this is the Goblin slave body and legs with Roman Citizen arms and head. You know what? I think that's pretty good. I think that the raggedy robes are, you know, they're a fairly decent match for what's provided in the Roman kit in terms of sort of shape and length. Okay, this one has a leather belt. This one's maybe just got some rope, but you know, for a poorer slave, I don't think that's out of the question. I had to adjust the shape of the bottom of the head to fit on the neck. It's got a bit of a stoop, but you know, I think that adds a bit of character. Quite happy with that one. I'll maybe try some more of those Goblin slave bodies. Yep, here's our Caesar's Legion model from Warlord Games with the Wargames Atlantic head and arm, where I used the putty to fill in the gap. I think once he's got a shield, he'll make a great front ranker for any unit to come. A quite dynamic model, this one, just from bits in the Roman Citizen kit, throwing a pila there. Or pilum, I suppose, if it's singular. Yeah. Okay. So a bit of painting to do to add these on to the growing collection of Roman slaves. Here's a painted up set of Roman slaves. I think all the models work together really well when they're based up like this. I've painted it in the same fashion as I did in a previous video, so I'll link to that and you can go watch that to your heart's content. Coming up, we've got the Slingers, mainly the Victrix bodies here, but with a Wargames Atlantic figure in the mix at the back. Once again, thanks to Wargames Atlantic for sending out a box of Citizens of Rome for me to use in videos. Hopefully a bit of kit bashing content was a nice change from the painting guides. Let me know what you think in the comments below. You'll find a link in the description to the Wargames Atlantic site where if you purchase with it, it sends me a little kickback, which is always helpful for growing the channel. There's some other links there for how to support me as well. Thanks for watching. Be back again soon with another video. Bye-bye.